Imagine, one day you're just enjoying all the cool stuff that comes from living in a technological civilization like the Game Boy Advance or pollution. Now imagine we take everything that science has created in the past 2 million or so years and just reset it. How long would it take to get back to where we are now with all our cool technology and stuff? That's a random hypothetical I would think about as a child. So when I found out Dr. Stone was a manga series that used that rough same premise, well, my lawyers didn't trust it was my idea first, so I guess I just gotta be excited about it. While the premise isn't exactly the same, the ideal plotline still hits the same beats. Rather than the entire world just getting a server wipe, all of humanity was turned to stone for thousands of years until some people start doing the whole being human thing again. As the story progresses, more characters get depetrified and added to the cast, the common ground uniting them all is an appreciation of science and waiting for Dr. Pepper to happen again. Dr. Stone went strong in Weekly Shonen Jump from 2017 till 2022, following our main character Senku Ishigami, an absolute mad genius scientist as he tries to not only revive the entire world, but the world's technological progression, and maybe even go past that because science? Pretty cool. What's unfortunately just as cool are the amount of obstacles that get in the way of this goal, like the guy who ranks above lines in the PvP tier list that isn't too fond of the idea of science coming back, or descendants of astronauts who avoided the petrification because they were in space, wanting nothing to do with science, pretty much just calling it sorcery because the irony is palpable. But it's through these problems that the world, progression, and cast can grow, adding to not only the series, but to the Kingdom of Science for their specialties as they were run over by the promise of the McRib and probably less important things coming back. Mainly focusing on the characters associated with the Kingdom of Science, there's the main character I mentioned before, Senku Ishigami. You know, the best factor of his character is how his personality interacts with his love of science. You'd think he'd be a normal, logical guy following the generic scientist trope, but there's a fair amount of traditional shonen protagonists in this Green Onion Man's DNA. Like, he's got such a heart of gold. He has a special way to make people excited for science, and his vocabulary is absolutely infectious. Like the phrases 10 billion% when he's certain, or describing anything abstract and small as a millimeter. I've never had a single original phrase in my vocabulary, and it's gonna stay that way. A core trait that I appreciate about Senku's character is that he doesn't act superior to anyone for his knowledge. It would have been so easy for him to just be smug and annoying, but he isn't.
You know, they say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look
Sukasa.
and you can see that statement is not true. You take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning.
Of course, his intelligence is used for a punchline, or he can be a bit disconnected from what the common man knows. But if a person shows scientific interest, he respects it just for that passion, which adds greatly to the message of science being for anyone. Anyone? Like Chrome, but I don't want... Oh, what's this? A gold medal for my transitions? You're too kind, but you gotta let me finish! I don't want to get too deep into characters because unlike my last video's topic that had a solidified, unmoving primary cast, Dr. Stone has an evolving cast as new people join that have their own unique specialties. To show you what I mean, let's take Kohaku and Chrome, both from the small village I mentioned before and the first two members of the Kingdom of Science. Both of them have a role of either fighting ability or scouting ability or science or whatever's whatever. This is fine at first, but as the series evolves and things complicate, new characters with new specialties get added, like Asagiri again who can gaslight, gatekeep, and girl boss. And as technology advances, the world gets bigger and more experts for different areas get added. But remember, I said it's an evolving cast, not a rotating cast. So even when situations become more complicated or more specific specializations are needed, characters don't lose value or just get swapped out or replaced. Funnily enough, these characters having value and always being relevant adds so much not just to Kingdom of Science in a literal sense, but also Senku in a writing sense. I feel like characters like Senku who are super brilliant are so easy to mess up, and it would have been very easy to just give Senku every trait that can be associated with intelligence. I feel like that's a pretty common thing for big brain characters, but his specialty is just science. He isn't a mentalist proficient at negotiation or trickery like Asagiri again because that's not his specialty. He isn't as good of an explorer or gatherer like Chrome because that's not his specialty. He doesn't know how to pilot or steer a ship as well as Rasui. Is that how you say his name? Under the guise of science because that's not his specialty. These characters get to shine for having their own abilities that contribute, and I really love it because putting everything on Senku and just having people around for diverse personalities would have probably made the writing process a hell of a lot simpler. But instead, we have a stronger foundation for the story that Dr. Stone is trying to tell. It has the benefit of making these well thought out scientific hurdles feel like more has been conquered because it had to be a group effort, no mining off screen in Dr. Stone. It's nice that it's a group effort, and with specific roles being given to characters, only so much can really be abstracted. So you come out of the other side of Dr. Stone episodes feeling like you learned something. It doesn't go into detail of how to realistically do everything shown, or steps tend to be exaggerated or like outright
Watch till
wrong.
the end, it's free, not clickbait.
But I mean, if it's good enough for the Mythbusters, you can be content with it. Hell, it'll even outright teach you how to make some things on a scientific level like some stone-rolled soda. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Feasting with Fayko, where this week we'll be taking a look at the stone-rolled cola from Dr. Stone, which involves the ingredients club soda, limes, honey, and cilantro. Dr. Stone didn't give a specific recipe, so I butchered the hell out of Aboard the Perseus' recipe. Link in the description. The first step is to heat up a cup of honey, which makes me wonder why I bought single-serve honey packs, which I needed the entire box of. So the real first step is to cut all of these and try to stop dropping the tops in the honey. My next step was to finely chop the leaves of cilantro, and I didn't realize it said leaves and not just a whole thing, so that's cool. Add a bit of juice from the lime and let it sit while the honey also heats. Combine the lime and cilantro concoction without the cilantro, luckily I didn't make that mistake, and put it in the fridge. After a bit of time, it's ready for assembly. Club soda first. And the honey, cilantro, and lime part. And you know, nope, I changed my mind. It's awful. I can taste each individual ingredient, and that is no soda. I tried to add more honey, and I didn't even get the color closer. My second attempt, which is a secret process, is a lot better. Please never let me try to cook anything on camera ever again, and get me to wipe the fingerprints off that fridge. If there's anything special Dr. Stone truly does, it's showing the utter beauty science can bring and the lens that it's displayed through. We have two camps of characters. One are the people that used to live in our world and did all the cool things that we do now, and the other are the primitive people without our cool science who lived a somewhat caveman lifestyle. So we get the best of both worlds, where we get to see characters slowly reclaim shreds of normalcy with each scientific step forwards, but we also see the villagers' lives change as they see what good can come from the progress that they originally wanted to fight against. And that beauty is illustrated with such emotional weight that it sticks out in my head among so many other manga and anime moments. Even the introduction of an idea can be exciting to the viewer and have the same effect.
Inventions in human history.
Smartphones?
You do love your smartphones. Wrong. The gun.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Feasting with Fayko. It's through this focus on the progression of science that Dr. Stone mimics a typical shonen's power scaling structure. Let me elaborate by taking a shonen protagonist. You'll do. They start off as fairly plain, but as threats continue to show up, they continue to get stronger. Maybe they unlock a new ability or a new transformation. Ooh, so shiny. It's the normal shonen structure. Those prior challenges are the reason that Mr. Protagonist is at the point he's at when the new strongest threat shows up. Dr. Stone does that, but with technological progression. That sounds weird, but hear me out on this one. The first challenge is to make a stone-rolled antibiotic. So that's our first villain. It's through the different steps and different levels of progression that they get to the scientific power to make said medicine. So when it's time to take on our next opponent, that being a cell phone, they are already at a higher level and can take on a more difficult challenge, and that gives some of the building blocks of making a vehicle and so on and so forth. these scientific hurdles they have to overcome, all while serving whatever greater purpose for whatever arc, take the place of antagonists, and I love how flexible it made such a tried and true structure. It's an interesting strength, but it's not exactly flawless. When it comes to not science-focused plot points, some things feel outright contrived or sloppily done. Tsukasa, the first major arc's villain who wants to halt scientific progression, just oddly knows what Senku's doing for the sake of plot. To be fair, it would have made a boring manga if Tsukasa was just trying to make an army and was suddenly like, oh shit, is that a tank? There's also a bit of a weak spot when it comes to confrontations that aren't completely science focused, like the guy that got hit with a spear and he was just kinda chilling there for the rest of the conversation. The writer, Riichiro Inagaki, known for his work on IShield 21, always had a huge passion for science and wanted to write a story that could combine that passion with our beloved shonen blueprint. And with gorgeous illustration from Boichi, who has plenty of experience with art from his work on Sunken Rock and... I mean, it tracks. Right man for the job, he's always been including science in his plotlines. You know, this honestly explains the weirder issues that tend to be a big talking point around Dr. Stone. But since I am a coward, let me give some praise first. Dr. Stone's art is incredible. It's one of the first things that really made me hooked into the manga, and yeah, I did read the manga before the anime came out. Yeah, that does make me better than the average person. Yeah, there isn't a single other series I can say this about. Boichi's art conveys perfectly the strange but functional clash of modern technological progression and ideas with the rudimentary level it would have to be made from scratch, especially by people who've never seen a Sega Genesis before. The environments are dynamic and interesting. Despite having practically no signs of humanity's mark on the world, you can easily tell which location is which just by how nature looks around it. Even outside of designs, this manga is a spectacle, especially when it comes to adding light to a moment. One of my favorite scenes in the manga is when Senku makes a light bulb for the first time, where the characters look like they were carved out of the darkness on the page as the light illuminates them. It's incredibly beautiful and shows the wonder of science that can also make winter clothes look like they were spray painted on the female characters. Or how science finds a way that no matter what a female character is doing, it is positioned in the weirdest way possible. Like, I know I haven't been to the doctor in a while. This is being recorded while I'm in the process of editing, but I just want to specify that this is the scene where the character is getting an antibiotic for her pneumonia. To be clear, I am no stranger to fan service, and I may not be the best person to talk about the harmful effects of fan service. That said, the way Dr. Stone does it just feels off. It's not at all the worst culprit when it comes to the crime of Tibby's. Oh man, did you know there's a restaurant called Tibby's? Well, if you're in the New Orleans area, check it out, I guess. Shout out to Tibby's. There's this bizarre disconnect from whatever's happening. Not like, hey, this is a serious moment, why are you naked?
My stuff!
More like it's a serious moment for the whole course, but displayed in the oddest sexualized way. My personal theory is that there's a strong divide in the story being told and how the story is being illustrated, almost like there are two different people that handle those two separate processes. I'm not saying that Boichi went behind Riichiro Inagaki's back and just added Tibbies to any part of the story for the sake of an epic bit. Obviously, everything in the story is cool with the writer or else we'd more than likely not see it, but the divide is so strange. And I will also take this opportunity to mention how much the female characters' faces bother me, like, let me fix that! Regardless, Dr. Stone has a very special place in my heart for not only stealing my idea, son of a bitch, but how enthusiastically it shows its love and appreciation of science. I love Dr. Stone, and if you haven't given it a shot, well, I hope this video made you consider doing so. All that said, that doesn't excuse the plot hole that Senku is hell-bent on using a revival formula when it's proven that Snickers are significantly more effective.